All right.
And we're back. Happy Monday. I'm Alek Dincoff. I'm here with Steve Todd, founder, creator of Open Sourced Workplace. This is where we pick his brain, see what he's up to, ask him some questions, and hopefully gain a better understanding of the workplace environment. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Alek. How are you doing? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. I'm doing pretty well. Pretty well.
Glad you heard me too. Good.
Good. But enough about me. You're the topic at hand. So, what has been going on this week with Open Sourced? Have you gotten in any amazing articles? Let's start digging in.
So this week's been more. I've got a ton of new articles, and I've really been going through them the last few days. Really excited about the content. It's not up yet. I'm still working through the new site, checking new things out, but I'm starting, obviously migrating content from the current site that's live to the new site, but then really drilling down into some of the content that I'm sort of holding back until the new site goes live. Honestly, the amount of information that's there, the topics that we're really hitting are very prevalent in the market today. Look at my day job, what I do, taking that information, taking the topics and the conversations that we have internally, and then having writers write content around that subject matter. So I'm really excited. I feel every week we get a little closer to actually going live with the new site. I think we're still ways to go. Unfortunately, these things just take so much time and effort, and it's still irritating it's going so slow, but that's that's nobody's fault. It's just these things just take time. So hopefully soon I'll have a date when I can actually go live with the site and share that with everybody. I'm super excited for that date, because then I think really it's a case of what we're doing here then sort of adds a lot more value to the content that we're creating. It enables us to go live with a podcast that you're narrating, and all of a sudden I think the whole product becomes that much more beneficial for people. And not only will they get to see you and me, they get to hear you, but then obviously be able to go and really dig deep into Open Source Workplace and start building relationships with other professionals and other like-minded people. Super excited for that.
So am I. I know you've spoken to a few people already and recorded at least one of those conversations to be released at another time. But it's good stuff. It's industry knowledge. It's up to date. It's amazing. And the delayed gratification that's going behind you and this site it's a testament. Patience, but it will be worth it.
Yeah, it's taken a lot of patience, I tell you. But yeah, I'm super. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, it's taken a lot of patience.
Understandable. So, with all that patience and all that time, have you been reading?
I've been reading a lot of my articles. Honestly, you have no idea how many articles I've actually got to go through. I think I have like 45 articles that I added to the site. So whenever you think about whenever I stopped publishing, I think it was like end of November I stopped publishing, the site probably had 80 articles on it. And that includes some glossary articles. So I have a ton more that's ready to go. So I've been spending my time really digging into some of the content, because the reason why I'm digging into it so much is for my day job. Some of the content's so applicable to what I'm trying to do. So, you're thinking about design, and whenever you think about a workplace, components of a workplace. So I have articles coming out about standards around air. So what sort of air quality, what standards should you be looking for? How should you be implementing an air strategy? How should you be thinking about color in the workplace? What are the different color palettes? When you think about water, what are the different type of water do you have to consider whenever you're going to give your employees good water? Because the actual benefits of water in the workplace, these are just, I have a series of these things. I think if I take that sort of component, I think I have like 10 articles that are like that, or basically how-to guides for rolling out water, air, temperature controls, furniture, as I said, color before, just aesthetics, how to design a pantry. for your workplace, all these different things that, again, is just like, I spend my time reading these things because that's what I do in my day job. So I keep going back to those. And I spent the last couple of days going through articles that are 100 facts on employee engagement and 120 statistics on employee engagement, and just going through all that content, because in essence, right, so when I'm trying to design and put together a story internally at work, I have to support my theories and my hypotheses with, okay, why is this important and why does this happen? And I have to have that data, I have to have the support that sort of helps drive the decision. So having those facts and statistics behind me sort of helps tell the story. So I've been researching a lot of that. I haven't done a lot of external reporting or external reading, but I do. My pile of magazines and things I got to catch up keeps growing every week though, and I feel terrible because you keep asking me, expecting me to tell you these wonderful things, and all I'm telling you is I'm reading material that no one can access just yet. But it is coming. It is coming. I assure you.
Well, that's good to know, though, that you have so much going on that you don't even have time for new information, because it's the things that are going to be put onto open source workplace are so crucial, critical. And if you have 100 facts, 120 statistics, that's not something that you have sink in all at once. You have to reread, you have to take notes almost if you're going to reference it later, especially in your own work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also, as I go through these things, also the ideas that come up, okay, where does this statistic, right? How do I then want to apply it in my job? But then also so if I apply it that way, is there some other resource I can give to other readers that actually would help them take that to the next level as well? So all those different things come up. So my actual list of content keeps growing. And if I told you I added about 70 or 80 more article titles to my content list this week, that's what I did. And again, this is all based on conversations that I hear either in my work or in the industry. And I then spend time just going through, search and find and trying to identify, okay, where's the answer to this? Is the answer to this question actually answered really well? And if it's not, it's going onto my content list. And this list is just going to keep going. So I actually did make a list. I actually went through, because we talked briefly last week about the 14 writers that I hired back in November, and it dropped to 10. And I actually have added one or two more. I came across one or two more who are actually delivering really good content. So I'm back up again to about 12. Some of my writers need more. I have to do more editing with it. But again, the way I sort of look at this is I'm not too concerned about if I have to edit things, because editing actually allows me to put my own voice and my own tone to it. And a lot of it is just really minor edits. But some of the other articles and content I'm getting is phenomenal. I don't even have to touch it. It's fantastic. So yeah, it's really interesting. But yeah, that content list, that hit list just keeps growing. And I'm sure it's going to grow. Next week, I'm actually attending a conference in Salt Lake City. It's called the Workplace Experience Conference. It's been run by Team. Team is a company based in Salt Lake City, recently acquired by WeWork, and they're hosting a conference. And the whole premise of the conference is it's not just for real estate, it's not for technology people, it's not for HR people. Actually, they put a conference together to bring those three parties together to form and be at one conference, which is one of the first of its like. And there are some others that are available to obviously all these parties, but they were very specific in seeking out, if you were going from a real estate perspective, they asked if you wanted to bring your technology partner or HR partner, because that's what they want to try and create, because workplace experience is obviously a lot more than just real estate. So I'm actually I'm actually talking at the conference, so I'm excited about that too. So next week, Salt Lake City, I hope to come back with a whole bunch more list of content items to be added. So it's all good.
I'm sure you will. I'll be happy to narrate it. I'm happy to read it. But you mentioned WeWork.
Yes.
Uh, well, I just read an article on Open Source Workplace. What you need to know about millennials was the title. And it gets into a lot of the sort of the office sharing or work-life balance that millennials like to have, almost working on their terms from where they want to. And it goes into a lot more. It's a very complex article. It's not um, just touching the surface in the conversation between us. But it makes me wonder, have you had experience with millennials? I mean, this may change after going to this conference with WeWork. But do they get as much credit as they deserve?
It's an interesting question, and it's an interesting debate. I think people see millennials as quite lazy people. I don't think they're very lazy. I think what it is, they've grown up with technology, and technology at their fingertips, so everything just comes easy. And I think their approach to work and our approach to life almost is very much, it's not easy, but they expect experience to happen very quickly. And if it doesn't happen easily, then why do it, if that makes sense, right? Or is there a way to make it easy or fix that easy? And I think whenever you evaluate or you see that from a distance, it can often come across as they're lazy. And I don't think they are lazy. I think they do get a bad rep. Where it sort of opened its eyes to me was 2 years ago. I had an intern from Columbia University, and I gave him a project of trying to, we basically started with a hypothesis that this is NASDAQ's real estate standard. And we asked him to go and test that hypothesis amongst the other intern class. So at NASDAQ, we typically bring in 120 interns per year. So they're usually spread all over the world. So I say, look, go ask the question, do your research, and see what we come back. And, the findings were quite enlightening in a sense of, he obviously proved the hypothesis was wrong. That's not the level and that's not the standard that we provide. But what was really, really interesting was digging into the reasons why. So the number one reason why we didn't do it is because interns typically come in and they usually get the worst seats in the office because everyone else is sitting in the good seats, and they usually get the worst seats. And they're often sat not with their team, they're sat close to their team. And the number one thing that I thought interns wanted, and this came across in the report, but also conversations, is they actually want to sit with the team and the team leaders. They want to see, they want to observe, and they want to learn. They have a deep desire to learn. And once they learn, they want to move on to the next thing and learn the next thing. And you can almost see that, whenever you look at some of the data points and the statistics, they're quite happy to work somewhere for 2 years. And if they feel they're not going to learn, or they're not buying into the leader's vision, or believe that they're going to be taught anything, they're happy to move on to something else and do it quickly. Generations before were quite happy to learn their thing, get their feet under the table, sit, relax, and take a breath for a little bit, or work at one company for many, many years. Millennials have a very different approach. They want to learn. They're very entrepreneurial in spirit. They're being surrounded, and the media sort of promotes entrepreneurialism, and they have that appetite within them. And I think they all have that, and they all want the ability to transfer and move across very quickly. So I do think they have a bad rap. And I think they work a lot harder. They work a lot smarter. Maybe not so much harder in a sense of time and energy perception wise, but I think they work a lot smarter, and they're just so used to things working for them. And if it doesn't, then they want to go get it working.
Fantastic. I love the insight, just because you're 100% right. From what I've seen as well, that almost mimics what I've thought and seen, where if it 2 years, let's actually learn, as long as it's a good place and I want to be there, right?
Yeah.
But after that, we live in such a society, or a world even, we're not ruled by like knights, kings, queens, so to speak. You don't have to be a peasant because you're born a peasant, right? You can transition and go either start your own business. And with the age of the internet, you almost don't need as much capital anymore, depending on what you're doing. It really is an interesting time.
No, it is. You're so right. You're so right. I just find it really, really interesting and the point you make about the ease and the cost to actually get and start your own thing. And, I also think that the time that they're prepared to give to an organization, they don't seem to have an issue. If something's not working out quickly, leaving right away. You know, if you look at how many people leave an organization within the first year, it's actually spiked whenever millennials come into the workplace. And that's because they're okay if things aren't working and changing and making a change for themselves. The other thing is, you know, when we talk about the data of how quickly the headover and turnover is, and 3 years, 2 to 3 years seems to be the optimal. I also then look at, okay, so if you look at organizations that have grown with millennials, you take a company like Google, and you know, you talk about that 2 to 3 year thing. The average longevity of a Google employee is 3.2 years, and it fits that mold. Now that comes surprise. I mean, I saw you lifting your eyebrows, and that's exactly what it is. And you know, a lot of companies aspire to be like Google, but if you're aspiring to have turnover every 3 years, how do you then build a process to ensure that when that person leaves in 3 years, you have someone who knows that knowledge and you're not losing all that information and skill set from the organization? So you have to sort of really think about how you recruit, how you retain, not even so much retain, but recruit, right? What is your pipeline? How do you ensure that, you know, once that employee hits 1 year, you're recruiting someone else, because you know in another, you know, 12 to 18 months, that's out the door, but you want to retain that sort of skills and knowledge base so the next one coming through is. So I think millennials have really shifted a lot of things. I think the whole dynamic of work, you look working from home, you look at, you know, you talked about reference WeWorks, you know, they're built on that mindset, right? They're built on that whole campus, that college, that whole camaraderie thing of creating that community in a workplace as well. And I think I think millennials have changed a lot of things. They'll still get a bad rep no matter what, though. All right.
It's always the younger generation,
There
right?
you go.
But
Yeah.
a lot of times they forget who raised that generation.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was going to ask, do you have any suggestions for companies on how to engage with millennials or help them feel like they have a purpose? But you kind of already said that, where if things aren't working, they're going to go their own way. Just give them the tools and the options.
Yeah. And I think the way to manage them is somewhat different, to be honest, right? Because I know when I first started working, you know, if your boss said you do this, you just go, okay, right? Where millennials quite happy to talk back, because that's what they've been taught through school, right? That's the whole point: dialogue, conversation, and everything is a dialogue, and they've no issue challenging things. And whenever you manage somebody like that, you have to adopt, you have to be flexible, and you have to understand those different things. But then how do you motivate and how do you keep an employee like that, where you know that they always are going to challenge, they're always going to think differently, and if they don't feel like they're learning, or they don't trust you or believe in you or where the organization is going, is they've no issue jumping ship right away. And I think you have to come and sort of distill it into what motivates them and have those continual conversations. What motivates them? You know, I always go back to the 3 principles of what motivate people. People want to be learning. They want to be contributing to the actual team and actually what's happening. They want experiences, right? So how do you take those 3 components and how do you build goals and structures for around those 3 core elements for the next 12 to 24 months, 36 months, so that actually the conversations become more long-terming, and actually the actual individual feels that you're building into their future, as well as what and how their future fits into the organization and also the team structure. And I think that's one way to sort of help address some of the longevity issues.
Great answer. Great answer. It's sometimes it's harder in practice because a company culture, especially with a boss that, no, this is what I said, I don't want to talk about it, go. There can be some a wrench in the gears.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I'm talking philosophically, and it's always never going to be like that, right? There is always the moment, no matter who the boss is, there always is that moment where I'm the boss, and this needs to get done, and it just needs to get done, right? And I think most people accept that there always are times like that, but I think it's the spirit and the environment that you create that actually people feel that that's what it is, and they understand that at certain points in time, yeah, we're here to execute, we're here to deliver, and that's what we got to do right now. So I think that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that leads me to ask one question. I'm going to circle way back. Are you taking anyone to your conference?
I'm actually not. No. So I actually was. I did consider it. It's just a tough time of the year for the organization, and so I'm actually, I'm going by myself, and it's different if I was attending as an attendee, but as I'm there to speak, it's a little bit different, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I hope you have a safe flight. I don't know if this will conflict with your schedule next week, but okay, good.
We'll be good. We'll be good.
All right, all right. Do you have any last tidbits you want to throw in there? Any curveballs, questions for me? I don't normally ask that.
always be careful what you wish for. So if you had to think about one thing that you've learned, right? Because you've read a number of articles, right? What's sort of been one thing that's resonated from our conversations, from what you've read? What's sort of been one thing that you would that sort of hit you?
So our conversations, the content that's on open sourced workplace, to the short and sweet example is it helps put real thought and context behind some ideas that I would think, yeah, that makes sense. So millennials in the workplace, right? Staying fit, having office space that promotes healthy living. Just these articles go on, and they're really, really good to know why, to have the understanding. They say ignorance is bliss, but an understanding can change the way you live. So I would say that's the biggest thing, is being pulled headfirst and saying, yeah, I see it helps me see how the world works almost.
Got it. Now, since you asked, so you obviously do a lot of narrating for open source. What other projects do you narrate for?
Do I narrate for?
Yeah.
Doing work for a magazine, some of their online articles, they decided to have an audio component. Audiobooks, I signed a contract. We spoke about that off of camera, how I had a publishing contract with a company out of Minnesota. Real great people. Minnesota nice. There's a stereotype for a reason. I do things like that, and a lot of my clients, I have a very good relationship with some animators, and I guess shameless self-plug, I'm on Fiverr as well, and I work with some people on there, and we collaborate and work and make sure projects get done for people all over the world.
Good. All right.
I don't know if you expected more, because it just
no. I was just letting you go from there. So.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I will say thank you very much for joining me again this Monday. We'll be back every Monday that we can make it. Rain, sleet, snow, or hail, as long as we don't get sick, we'll be here. Like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Send this to your friends on social media. And perhaps check out some of the articles we've mentioned on Open Source Workplace. The new website's coming, but that shouldn't stop you from going there now, today even, and looking at and learning about some great content. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.
Great. Thank you, Alex.